Barbarian makes use of a standard horror setup of strangers, an unfamiliar house, and a mysterious basement, though it twists these familiar elements into something far more unpredictable as the film progresses. And without further ado, let us commence with a summary, though before I do so, if you would subscribe to my channel, your support would allow me to continue to grow. The film begins on a dark and stormy night in a rundown neighborhood of Detroit. Rain pours down over rows of dilapidated houses, most of which appear abandoned and hollow. Streetlights flicker faintly over cracked sidewalks and overgrown lawns, creating an unsettling atmosphere from the outset. A young woman named Tess arrives in the area after driving in for a job interview scheduled for the following morning. She pulls up outside a small Airbnb house she has rented for the night, though immediately something feels off about the surroundings. The street is eerily quiet, and most of the homes appear empty, giving the impression that the neighborhood has long since been forgotten. Tess walks up to the house and attempts to unlock the front door using the access code given to her through the booking app. To her surprise, the door is already unlocked. She cautiously steps inside, expecting the house to be empty, but quickly hears movement coming from deeper inside. A man named Keith soon appears and explains that he also rented the same Airbnb for the night. The two compare their reservations and quickly realize that the property has been double booked by mistake. Keith shows Tess his confirmation email and she checks her own booking, confirming they were both legitimately assigned the same house for the same night. Tess initially considers leaving and trying to find a hotel somewhere else in the city. However, when she checks online, she discovers that there are no nearby rooms available due to a large convention taking place in Detroit. Keith suggests that it will be safer for her to stay rather than wandering the unfamiliar neighborhood late at night. After some hesitation, Tess agrees to remain for the night, though she remains cautious about the situation. Keith insists that she take the bedroom while he sleeps on the couch in the living room, attempting to reassure her that he means no harm. The two try to ease the awkwardness of the situation by talking and sharing a bottle of wine. Their conversation gradually becomes more relaxed as they discuss their reasons for being in Detroit. Keith appears friendly and polite, but the film intentionally frames certain moments in a way that makes the audience silently suspicious of him. The camera often lingers on his expressions or follows him through a dimly lit house, creating the impression that he might not be entirely trustworthy. Tess keeps her guard up during most of the conversation, though she slowly begins to feel more comfortable around him. Eventually, Tess goes to bed in the bedroom while Keith settles on the couch. During the night, Tess wakes up to find that the bedroom door has mysteriously opened, even though she distinctly remembers closing it earlier. The moment creates an uneasy feeling that something strange might be happening inside the house. She steps outside into the hallway to check whether Keith may have opened it, but everything appears quiet. With no clear explanation, she returns to bed, though a strange event lingers in her mind. The following morning, Keith leaves the house early to explore the city, while Tess prepares for her job interview. As she gathers her belongings and prepares to leave, she accidentally discovers a hidden door in the basement. Curiosity gets the better of her, and she decides to investigate. When she enters the basement, she realizes that the space is far larger than she initially expected. Behind another concealed passage, she discovers a narrow corridor leading deeper underground. At the end of the corridor, Tess finds a hidden room that appears deeply disturbing. Inside, there's a stained mattress on the floor, a bucket in the corner, and a camera mounted on a tripod facing the bed. The implications of the setup are immediately sinister, suggesting that someone may have been held captive here. Horrified by the discovery, Tess rushes back upstairs just as Keith returns to the house. She urgently tells him what she found and insists that he needs to see it so they can report it to the authorities. Keith initially assumes there must be some misunderstanding, but after seeing how shaken Tess is, he agrees to investigate the basement with her. The two return downstairs together and enter the hidden corridor. Keith moves ahead while Tess waits nervously behind him. Keith continues further into the tunnel despite Tess urging him to come back. Suddenly, his voice echoes from deeper within the passage, sounding alarmed and confused. Tess reluctantly follows him through the corridor and eventually reaches a larger underground chamber, where she finds him injured on the ground. Before she can react, a grotesque humanoid creature suddenly emerges from the darkness and violently kills Keith in front of her. The film abruptly shifts perspective, cutting away from Tess entirely and introducing a new character named AJ. AJ is a successful actor living in Los Angeles whose career suddenly begins to collapse after he is accused of sexual misconduct by a co-star. As the accusations begin spreading publicly, AJ becomes increasingly concerned about his finances and reputation. While reviewing his financial situation, AJ discovers that he owns a rental property in Detroit that he had previously been using as an Airbnb investment. Realizing that selling the property could help overcome his legal expenses, he travels to Detroit to inspect the house himself. When AJ arrives, he is shocked by the state of his neighborhood. Nearly every house on the street appears abandoned, except for the one he owns. Inside the house, he begins measuring rooms and calculating the square footage in order to estimate how much a property might sell for. During this process, he discovers the same hidden basement passage that Tess had found earlier. Instead of reacting with fear, AJ becomes excited when he realizes that the additional underground space could increase the value of the home. He ignores the obvious warning signs and heads deeper into the tunnels. Meanwhile, it is revealed that Tess actually survived the earlier encounter but has been captured by the creature and imprisoned within the underground labyrinth. The creature, known as the Mother, behaves in a disturbingly childlike way and forces Tess to drink from a baby bottle while treating her like a child that needs to be cared for. When AJ eventually encounters Tess in the tunnels, she urgently warns him that they need to escape immediately. However, before they can flee, Mother returns and violently drags them deeper into the underground passages. The film then briefly shifts back in time to the 1980s, revealing the origins of the house and the creature. A man named Frank once lived there and secretly used the basement to kidnap and imprison women. Over many years, he expanded the tunnels beneath the house while committing horrific crimes against his captives, eventually leading to the creation of a creature seen in the present. Returning to the present day, Tess and AJ attempt to escape the tunnels while being pursued by the Mother. They eventually reach the surface and flee through the deserted neighborhood, where the creature continues chasing them relentlessly. Their escape leads them to a nearby water tower where they climb to the top in a desperate attempt to survive. In a final moment of selfishness, AJ pushes Tess off the tower so that the creature will follow her instead. The Mother leaps after Tess, cushioning her fall but severely injuring herself in the process. Tess survives the fall and eventually confronts the wounded creature, realizing that it is ultimately a victim of the horrific abuse that created it. The Mother gets revenge on AJ, ending his life, to which the film ends with Tess ending the creature's suffering and sitting alone on the roadside as emergency lights approach in the distance, having survived their nightmare hidden beneath the ordinary house. Now that the summary's out of the way, I would say what I do like about the film and what I don't like all that much. The only aspect I would change about the film is the pacing and tonal shift once the second half begins. While the introduction of AJ and the comedic elements surrounding his character are entertaining in their own right, the abrupt transition from the slow and suspenseful first act to the more chaotic and darkly comedic second act can feel slightly jarring. The opening portion of the film is extremely effective at building tension and dread, whereas the later sections rely more on spectacle and explanation of the creature's origin. Because of this, some of the mystery that made the beginning so engaging becomes less impactful once everything is spelled out for the audience. Additionally, while AJ serves as an interesting contrast to Tess through his selfish personality and lack of awareness, his storyline occasionally pulls attention away from survival horror elements that were so strong earlier in the film. It does not ruin the experience by any means, but the tonal inconsistency between the two halves can make the overall narrative feel slightly uneven, despite the film's many strengths. These strengths including its strong writing and character portrayal, especially the environment it sets up, and the use of modern-day devices such as Airbnbs in order to convey such a horrific story. Overall, Barbarian is a solid horror film that offers plenty of suspense, a few shocking moments, and a story that keeps the audience guessing for much of its runtime. Because of this, I would give the film a 6 out of 10. And with that being said, that will wrap up today's video, and I hope you all have a good night.